Hi, my name is Christine Harrod.
Hello, I'm Azaria Garris.
Hello, I'm Zaya Bacuse.
Hi, I'm Rainy Small.
Hello, my name is Bayer Robinson.
And we're going to be talking about Get Out, made by Jordan Peele. Is there anything you guys want to start off with?
Sure. So for the editing and camera work, I noticed that there was like heavy use of point of view shots from Chris's point of view, which definitely like drove the point of fear and like confusion, I guess. Especially that scene when he went outside to like smoke and the garden worker, I believe, he like was running towards him. And then the whole scene with the woman who was, crying and everything. So yeah, I noticed heavy use of point of view shots. Also like close up shots of the tea and the teacup and him crying. I thought that was very significant just because at first glance, you don't really know what the significance of the tea is. And then all of a sudden, like the whole vibe of the movie kind of shifts like right after that scene. So yeah, that's pretty much what I found.
Yeah, I think the teacup scene and the scene where the woman is crying were definitely powerful shots. Like he definitely used the close-up shots very well, where you can kind of feel what the character is feeling.
Yeah, and the close-up shots, I focused on their eyes mainly, from the deer to, I think, I forgot his name, starts with the L, to the other characters. I always focused on their eyes.
I think like while we're talking about the close-ups of their faces, I think it's important to note the reactions as well because I focused on script. And what I noticed like a lot throughout the movie is that really what made it is the body language. Like not even was it the spoken language all the time, but it was a lot of times the body language when Chris would just look at the camera or where he would share a glimpse between Georgina or Walter. Like it was always the unspoken language that I felt really spoke to the character. It really added to the intensity of the horror. I guess I could talk more about I could go more into script. I noticed that like the writing for the movie, like it contains a heavy amount of satire, which I think really is what makes it comical, but like also allows the audience to really like pull from the message, which is I guess a message about like racism, exploitation of Black people, Black bodies, Black ideas, and things like that.
To jump off that and the satirical writing, I would say that kind of aligns with like the underlying racism we have in our country today. Like it's there, but it's not as acknowledged as it should be sometimes. So like I feel like the racism was kind of underlying throughout the movie until it finally popped up when Chris realized it was crazy.
Yeah, it like early on throughout the movie, it kind of surfaces as like comments between the parents and between Rose before we even meet the parents. You might remember the conversation between Chris and Rose when they're talking, when Chris asks like have you told them that I'm Black? Like, have you, like, what should I expect? And Rose kind of like brushes it off and like, she's like, okay, it's okay. Like my dad, they would have voted for Obama for a third time. And it's just like comments like that are like comments usually made by like white liberals when they're trying to, I guess, seem more like culturally diverse, culturally aware, I guess. And so, but like to Black people, this comment kind of comes off as uneasy. And it's the first, I guess, glimpse where we realize that Chris is probably walking into some type of impending doom. In like later parts of the movie, it comes up when the father I guess, tells him himself that he would have voted for Obama a third time, but also when he acknowledges that having such a large plantation or a large plantation like space with Black servants, like he acknowledges how it probably comes off, which in a way disarms the audience because it shows us that he's self-aware, and so that we really have like nothing to worry about as far as his character.
Yeah, I completely agree with the whole satire and the passive comments, the microaggressions that were said throughout the film. And when I was watching the film, when I watched it on Prime Video, it shows like an alternate ending, and Jordan Peele was talking about how he had wrote this script during the Obama era, and like he kind of said during that era, the country was in like a racial lie of how, you know, everything was just all copacetic between everyone and things like that, until we get to our next term presidency in 2016, and we see that that's not the case, which I thought about when you said like, I forget exactly what you said, but you said something along the lines of, you know, everything was the underlying racism that was there that we could see, but it wasn't too obvious, but then it sort of like boiled over.
Yes, I agree with all of that. The microaggressions, the fear, and all of that goes into the psychological impact that the movie has on primarily its Black audience. So the major impact is the fear of Black people in white spaces. That's what I got from the movie overall. In the beginning, when Chris is talking to Rod, like you said, the satire is there. It's a dark humor that Black people have amongst each other, where we joke like, haha, you know, if you do this around a white person, something bad will happen. Or if you go walking in the suburbs by yourself, you'll get kidnapped and turned into a human sleeve or something, or they'll dissect your body, things like that. We joke to cope with that. And also with the relationship between Chris and Rose, it shows that some Black people have to always have their guard up when they have relationships and connections to white people, and we can't let that down by any means necessary, even if we do think they're on our side or they're more culturally aware and things like that. And white people play a lot of tricks. It's kind of like, because of media and things like that, it's almost like a lot of white people who, like you all say, are liberals or who try to portray that they're culturally aware, they always say the same things. Oh, I have a Black friend. Oh, I voted for Obama. I loved Obama. He was the best president. Oh, I love Oprah. They always mention the same Black people. They're not aware of things outside of the biggest people we talk about. Oh, I love Martin Luther King. Like, okay, there's other people. And then another psychological impact is that, to me, the movie was saying the only purpose Black people serve in white spaces is the help. So Georgina being the house servant, Walter, you know, being the gardener, and then the sex slave of Logan, it's not directly in there, but he is married to Philomena. And then what they try to do to Chris, selling him off at the bidding. So yeah, that was some of the psychological impacts.
Yeah, I really liked what you said. The last thing you just said about how the only purpose for Black people in white spaces is the help. I agree with that. And I also think like they're there for just any kind of beneficial gain for a white person, because yes, they were the help and the sex slave, but they were also the entity that these older white people took over, and, you know, to live a new life and to become someone else. But to branch off of the psychological impacts, I want to get into the music, because I think they both go hand in hand. There were 4 main songs that played throughout the movie, and the first one, the main title, was a song called Siki Lisa, which was it translates to listen to your ancestors, and you have people singing in Swahili. And when you translate some of the lyrics from the songs, they're basically telling Chris to run far away and to save yourself. And I found it interesting how each of these songs played multiple times throughout the movie in certain circumstances and situations. And then after that main title, we had the song Run Rabbit Run, which is basically a song about hunting rabbits for sport. And it was made during like World War II, and in 1940 they switched the lyrics to Run Adolf Run to like mimic Hitler and how he was failing at like all his ploys to try and win the war or whatever. And I thought it was interesting the scene that it played in, which was when Andre was walking through the neighborhood trying to find out where he was going, and you see Jeremy abducting him. And it plays a couple more times throughout the film as well. And then we had Redbone by Childish Gambino, which played when Chris and Rose were first put on the camera before they met up at his apartment, which I thought was very, very interesting because of the lyrics of the song. Where it's like, they're gonna find you, catch you sleeping, stay woke, don't close your eyes, things of that nature. And I just thought it was interesting because you see this Black man and his white girlfriend, and the first thing that popped into my mind was, this isn't going to be good because, you know, there's this thing that like Black men, they always tend to fall into the trap of a white woman, a white girlfriend, a white wife, whatever, and they're not always 100% protected in that decision they make, as we see throughout the rest of the film. And then another song that played towards the end was I've Had the Time of My Life, which I thought was also interesting because it plays, I think, after Rose gets shot and she starts to bleed out, and you see Chris is like standing over her, and she's trying to put on like this innocent voice, like, you know, I'm sorry for what I've done, I love you, trying to like, I guess, excuse everything that's happened throughout the entire movie, and he's just supposed to forgive her. But then, as we see, he starts to strangle her. But yeah, I just thought this was a really great selection of songs to use, especially the main title, because that one is just warning him throughout the whole movie. I feel like all of the songs, except for the last one, are warning Chris and the other characters, like Andre, throughout the entire movie, but they don't even know until it's too late.
Yeah, I feel like Redbone in particular definitely grew more popular after the movie, and it definitely spoke to like, you know, Black people staying woke, quote unquote, in terms of white people, and I don't know, them out to get us in no sense. But I guess I'm gonna go into the actors and casting. I think Daniel Kaluuya was a good choice for this movie, particularly because he's also very dark skinned, and it really put out the Black and white narrative. Like, his skin is just so nice, and he kind of had the same reaction that the audience had. I felt like, being around white people and having the thought that they're kind of crazy, something's not right. So I feel like his facial expressions alone really carried out the expression of the audience as well. And then I think Allison Williams, who played Rose, she played it well because you honestly, her whole family, because you wouldn't think there's something off about them at first, but then when they really brought out that crazy out, that's all you could see. So even when I see her in other movies, I feel like she still has that crazy character. Like, you can see it in her eyes. And her dad, I felt like, is a stamp of a white person who has that passive aggression and tries to act nice and stuff, like tries to act like he has that quote unquote one Black friend, but it's kind of low key shady. And then I feel like Lil Rel Howery, who played Rod Williams, who was Chris's best friend, he definitely played a well role, adding in that comedic standpoint. And then the actor who played Georgina definitely had that crazy look in her eyes. Not even crazy, but just more so of a cry for help. And I think allowed the audience to feel her emotions.
I agree. Everyone, I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, for the acting, one of the best scenes was like when the pass me the keys rose, that like even seeing it for the first time, assuming you didn't like see the trailer, it was kind of like Chris was with the audience, like Chrislene said, because the pure fear in his eyes, like you could tell he didn't know if Rose was like in on it yet or like what was going on. So I just feel like that acting scene in itself was just one of the best of the whole movie. So
Yeah, I was going to say the acting was very good in this movie. Everyone portrayed a person in reality. Like you have the typical, the white male who says, oh yeah, I have white friends, ha ha ha, or the microaggressions. And he's, a typical, like Rose said, a lame dad in the beginning. He's that white man, white father. And then with Daniel, or Chris in the movie, he's like on edge. He's that black person who's on edge, who's like, I can trust white people, but I'm not going to let my guard down all the way. Then you have Rod, who's that black person that's like, yeah, no, I'm not messing with white people. You gotta, they all sneaky. I can't get down with them at all. And then you have Logan, who was in the beginning, he was also on edge, walking in the suburbs like, yeah, you're not about to get me. So, and then Georgina and Walter, the help, like Chris said at one part, they're all whitewashed. They all played that very well because they're around so many white people, so they lose that touch of Black culture. So the acting was really spot on.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you guys on that, how great the acting was. And I really like that scene that you pointed out, Rainey, where it was the key moment when they were all downstairs, because Rose did that so well throughout the movie. Like she turned that innocence, that I have no idea what's going on, that kind of mentality, she turned that on and off throughout the movie. She did that with the keys. She did that when she was on the phone with Rod, and I'm sure she did it a couple times in the beginning as well, that kind of like manipulation that she did to Chris and tried to do to Rod. And I also think that their family, I forget how to say their last name, but Rose, the dad, the mom, and even the brother, they all kind of portrayed like different kinds of, I don't want to say racist white people, but just different kinds of white people when it comes to being in a space with Black people. Like the dad, he's making all these terrible, passive, microaggressive comments. The mom and the daughter are like embarrassed by it, trying to joke it off, laugh it off. But the brother was like obviously hostile from the beginning. Like as soon as we met him and came on screen, all of his energy directed towards Chris was just very hostile, very aggressive. And that never changed. Like he never faltered throughout the movie with that. And I think if everybody has done their part, we have settings and costumes left.
I can go on the bride setting event in the suburbs. We correlate that to nice houses, white people, the outskirts of the city, and seclusion. So just Black people being in those spaces, even now, myself personally, when I do go in the suburbs, or drive by them, I do see that they are nice houses, but I also am aware driving past them, and I have that conscious decision to not drive through them because I never know what's going to happen. Like an innocent day could turn to something traumatic, or I could get injured just for being Black in a white space, or being around white people's homes that they protect and things like that. So just that setting alone already sets the tone of being on guard.
And to piggyback off that, I guess, like, not even just like the house, the Armitage family house is like not even just like a regular suburban house. Like it's a plantation. Like the yard is like you can tell it's a plantation. And I think that's what kind of adds to like the horror of it as well. Cause as soon as we see the house, we immediately know like, okay, something is about to go down here. Like we may not know what, but like we know that something is about to happen. And I think like the plantation like type house kind of ties into like the script, the theme of the story as a whole. And I think like even though everything else is like so modern, like the clothes, like everything that they're talking about is modern, like the movie is set in a modern day, but like having this outdated like type house, it kind of, I guess, like subliminally shows us that like the past is always connected into the present, and that like I guess it kind of foreshadows like the racism that we're about to be exposed to, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, I agree. There's like plantation type houses in certain white towns where I'm from, and it definitely gives you that eerie feeling. I don't know about it. Like there's also land that surrounds it, and I don't know what it's called, those like little columns that they have at the front door. But yeah, it definitely gives plantation vibes. And you just automatically think back to slavery and all the suffering that happened on the plantation. And it holds the same weight as the whole Get Out story, where Black people were basically being imprisoned and used for their bodies.
Setting that I wanted to point out is the psychiatrist room or the therapy room that Chris was in. I don't know what it symbolizes exactly or what Jordan Peele, meant by it, but the whole feel of the room is like very eerie. The lighting and just the bland color of the whole room, it just adds to the eerie feeling of the movie. And the fact that it's a therapy room, it doesn't put you at ease. It makes you tense and more on guard. And that's what what's her name, that's what the mother did, to the Chris. She didn't put him at ease. She actually tricked him into thinking he was in a safe space, but it wasn't.
Yes, all of the settings takes were actually so good, and I agree with them. One thing that I wanted to talk about was two of the costumes, actually, when it was towards the end and they were about to do the surgery, and Rose is seen wearing like this pure white shirt with some khakis, looking like a typical horse girl. I just thought that was interesting because white is usually representing pureness and innocence, and like I keep saying, she switches off that innocent, I don't know what's going on, manipulative thinking and voice into like who she actually is. She's in control. She knows what's going on. This is her doing, because as we see, she's bringing everybody, all of their victims, she brings them in. They've been her boyfriends, her friends, or whoever she might know. So I thought that was super interesting that she was wearing the white towards the end, when there had been like a lot of red and blue throughout the movie. And also when they had that they said it was a party, but it was actually an auction. Everybody was wearing black for the most part. And I felt like that the significance of that was because they were about to auction on this Black man, and they all were talking about how Black is back in fashion and is cool, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's all.
I would just like to add the contrast between Logan's, Walter's, and Georgina's costumes compared to Chris. He even noted in the movie that their swag, quote unquote, was different from his. They were dressed more business casual, or more like white people who are middle class or above. So it was also that disconnect. between just the Black culture that we experience and the whitewashed culture that Black people are put into. And also the other white people around them were dressed similar to them as well.
Yes, and you see how like everybody at that party, they were old, like 50s, 60s, maybe even 70. And Georgina, Walter, Chris, and Logan, and even Rose, they're all pretty much young. But out of all of them, only 2 of them are dressed appropriately for their age. Like those who are already in the sunken place have now adopted the fashion of those who have abducted them, essentially. But overall, what do you guys rate the movie out of 10?
I give it a 10.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 9 or a 10 too.
I'm giving it a 9 or a 10 as well.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
I would agree. I think it's pretty much a perfect film. So I would definitely have to give it a 10.
Well, thank you for listening to our podcast on Get Out.